Hello, my lovelies. I am Stephanie, and I am a modern day mystic and a guide. And I use the tarot as my tool to do my work. And today I want to talk about when I am using tarot decks that I do not bond with at all, but I grab them for some reason or another. And they are incredibly useful because they're taking me outside of what I expect to see on the cards. And so let's get into the cards. This particular deck was given to me. I purchased it used from a deck store that had written a little write-up, and they said that this deck is the Western Tarot Card Deck, Golden Age Comic Book Images by Bobby Alexander, an indie artist. Contains no images of Native Americans. It was nice they put that in the little note. And when I got the deck, I got it simply because of its size. I really didn't examine the deck at all. For those of us who use all kinds of decks, there are 78 cards in a deck, and a larger deck can be very difficult to shuffle because of the size in your hands. It's unwieldy to try and I bridge so many people don't, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to bridge shuffle a larger deck, although it's easier to see the images. A standard size deck, comparatively, this is a standard size Rider-Waite Smith deck, comparatively, is just the perfect size for handling, easy to handle, easy to shuffle. And so when I see a small deck like this one, I know that it's going to be great for clarifying, a little card to put on top of some cards that maybe confuse me, or reading where I want a little bit more information. I like having these smaller decks. So because it was a deck I hadn't seen before, it was very interesting images. I picked up the deck without really examining it, and I have been flabbergasted when I got home and I started looking at the deck, because I actually started to see that the images and the artwork, which was very interesting, was not something that would conform to how I read. So this is the sun card. Usually that's the happiest card in the deck, but we have a horse out in the desert with basically the carcass of a dead cow over here. And these are vultures that are all standing around the sun. There's nothing happy about this sun card at all. And so I definitely am at a total loss to how the um, deck creator made his decisions, and I am it's when you buy a used deck, you don't get the little white book, and having a little white book really can be important so that you understand where they're coming from. This is the strength card, where normally you would think the strength card has a gal with her hand in the mouth of a lion, showing that she's strong enough to handle these types of things. But and so it generally makes sense. They do have a man versus bear situation going on here, pun intended. But in this situation, it's just a prospector fighting a bear. There's not the stereotypical meaning. And so the Three of Cups, another example, is usually three women celebrating together. And it's just this gal and her gun and her neck scarf, or her and her two braids celebrating together. It's really quite interesting. And so I had not wanted to use this deck until I had someone come in, and I don't know exactly what the situation was or how it happened, but I had the deck on my desk. Maybe it was because my kid was doing my emblem on my deck carrier, and she liked that it was a Western deck, and so uh, they were able to decide to put a Western card into this card slinger type of a container for me. And I had it out on my desk, and I just intuitionally I wanted to use this deck, because sometimes an image will be on a card that brings up something important. I'm always open. If I just think of a deck, I'm drooling because it just feels like I'm hungry for that deck, I'll use it, and pretty much no exceptions. And so I knew that I had not gotten off on a good foot with this deck. And the question that came up was something that was pretty direct. And I pulled out the card that's identified as Judgment. And I, at that point, spent a lot of time looking at the card in a way that I would never have read Judgment, but in a way that really pans out. The card that I customarily would read um, would not have a cowboy in essentially blue velour matching outfit. I mean, he's got brand new pants, shirt, and hat to match. He's wearing, if it's not a collar, it's a I can only assume that with the collar going down the center of his sternum, that it's some type of I don't know what he's wearing under. His gun, you can't really see it as well here, but the professional slinger, the gun is open and able to come out of its holster easily. This man's gun holster is closed, snap closed. His very shiny brand new shoes, and he's wearing spurs. And it was as though he was this little man in blue was pretending that he was a cowboy and he was going out into the world dressed up like a cowboy, but having none of the skills. And in the particular reading, it was a business owner, and they were, should I go back and do the types of business that I have done in the past that I know can make me money, but I kind of hate doing it. Their general catchphrase for the meeting was, my resume is full of just all the things I don't want to do anymore. And they were questioning, times being what they were, should they make offerings of things that are definitely skills that they've had, definitely things that they can do very well, but things that they just don't want to do. And when this card came out, it was as though I was in the boots of the old gunslinger. We can only see his gun in this card. And I was thinking, I am too tired and I just want to get my cattle in. And I have a gun with me because I want to be able to handle it if a coyote goes after the calves. But basically, I just want to get the cows in and try and get home in time to maybe tarp up the hay bales before the storm comes in. And I got this dressed up, no clue, wants to fight just to fight. I didn't mention it before, but this guy actually has a whip wrapped around his shoulder, and it's the same hand that would be his drawing gun. There's no comprehension of why you would put the whip on the same shoulder as the hand that's supposed to be a fast draw. I mean, it was just every time I looked at the card, it became more and more ludicrous that the old cowboy who has the misfortune to run up against this kid has to even deal with him. And the amount of distaste in my mouth when I was trying to explain to this client that you will become so almost angry, but the resentment level of having to do the things that you do not want to do anymore will poison everything else you do. It will waste your time. It will make you angry. And it's kind of dangerous, frankly. And I know people in the past who have gotten into trouble with other areas of professional work. And they will come to me and they'll say, I knew I shouldn't have taken that case. It's like, you shouldn't go there. You don't want to be there. And then it just, downhill slide avalanches into something really unpleasant. And so I wanted to bring up the point that I would never have purchased this deck if I had looked through the deck and known that it was non-conforming to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith images fit the meaning, where you can look at a card and know exactly what its meaning is. I think that this is just beautiful images, fun images from the Golden Age comic book images. However, in this particular situation, I would never have gotten from judgment to the fact that you've got to have good judgment about who your A client is, and you have to have advertisement and materials that are saying who you want to work with so that people that are not that self-select out so that you can really put your time and energy into your business. And I ended up advising the person to pick exactly who their A client is, as though there's a bunch of rabbits in the field and you want to have dinner tonight. You don't chase after all of the rabbits because you won't get any dinner. You pick the one rabbit and you hunt it down and you make it your own. And so in the outcome of that, I was reminded that as silly as a card deck can be, as out of touch as the images can be to what you consider the meaning to be, every once in a while, man, these cards teach me a lesson. In this particular situation, I was very happy to know that judgment can mean the judgment to walk away and to not look up and see what looks bright and heavenly and that in a stereotypical judgment card that you would hear the call and look up from your daily toils and trudges. And in this particular situation, that the knowledge between what is to be let go of and what to be held on to is very similar to the Four of Coins, where he's clutching his coin to his chest, but that the judgment is more the dissemination or the discernsion, the decision for you to know that just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should have to do it just to get your coin. So thank you for letting me share something that I learned when I was at work that day. And I hope you have an amazing day. Bye for now.